Ladies and gentlemen, this is El Cochino, Tom Lawler, and I'd like to welcome you to the podcast that puts the lotion on its own skin, LuchaWorld. Bitchin'.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, or the morning as it may be. Straight from Walnut Kills, from the folks who did not bring you Holt Street Wrestling. It is Vandal Drummond, Fredo Esparza, and the children across the street and their dog.
Oh, yes.
We are here to bring you LuchaWorld episode number 117.
I like how the timing of that all started exactly like as you were introducing the podcast.
It would not be a proper LuchaWorld podcast without the noise of a jackhammer somewhere or a train going by.
My favorite is like now that I've done other people's podcasts, how much they complain about all that stuff, whereas we just keep going. It's like, let's just keep going. We don't care.
I think it adds charm to it. I stand by that.
Yeah.
I've had a couple of people actually say that they kind of find it funny, so why not?
Yeah, and it's not the entire show either, so it's
exactly.
To be fair, it's not.
Although if we ever do hear construction workers who are like within a walking sight, we should go interview them.
Yes, we'll just include them in the conversation. Odds are some of them might be Lucha Libre fans anyway.
Who knows?
So.
And if they're not, it'd be even funnier, especially if they're gringos and we say, what do you think about Diamante Azul? And they go, what? Who? What?
What do you think of Ripper slapping Conan across the face? They're like, what?
Well, man, it has been a long time since...
Yeah, you haven't been on a show since, like, what, August?
I believe so.
And that might have been one of the Lucha Classica episodes.
It was a Lucha Classica one, I'm almost certain.
You might haven't been on since, like, June, probably. So,
yes.
Let's run down everything you've enjoyed since in the last 8 months in Lucha Libre.
Anything involving, well, I sound like a broken record here, but anything involving Junior Dinamitas and Barbaro Cavanario.
Mm-hmm.
And by God, Negro Casas still has it. But other than that,
And you actually watched Hijo de Vikingo also.
I love Hijo de Vikingo.
During your time off, you actually watched that Hijo de Vikingo, I think, Laredo Kid match?
Yes.
Or like the Trios match, I think you watched. You watched a couple, I think.
I watched a few matches.
Yeah.
Those are for me, the revelations are Hijo del Vikingo and Black Taurus.
Yeah.
I am such a huge Black Taurus
And you saw Black Taurus at the PWG show.
Versus Darby Allin.
Yeah.
That was an awesome match.
So
I really enjoyed that. But as you know, we were talking before the show started. I thought I watched the entire January 31st show from Arena Mexico. But
he missed one match.
I missed one match. But as you're telling me,
but you still watched the opener. You still watched the opener, though.
I have to say, okay, this was
as a helicopter now passes,
and I think they're airlifting somebody right here. And Fredo, it's time for you to do your EMT work. Yeah, Fredo's been on the side doing some EMT work.
Remember when Carl Stern used to do the podcast?
Oh, from his car.
Yeah, he was a police officer
Yes.
at that time, and he would just stop and he would talk about how he was having lunch, doing part of the podcast. I think he would only do part of it because he would actually edit in like a couple of segments from different places. But usually it was him still like in his car or like getting lunch, but it was different time periods.
And there's one time where he's doing it, I think in the evening, and a meth lab caught fire. And he is mentioning it.
Yeah. So it's like
no, it was interesting watching it, and I don't know if it's just because I haven't watched, other than watching individual matches, just a little tidbit here and there. I think it's the first time in a long time I've watched an entire CMLL show.
Except that one match. So you still have not watched an entire show.
I only get partial credit.
Yes, partial
credit. So it reminds me of my high school days, getting partial credit because I was late all the time turning stuff in, if I turned it in at all. But I want to say I enjoyed it, but I have to say it was kind of from the viewpoint of somebody kind of appreciating how an entire show was built, not so much as a hardcore fan or even a casual fan. But the opening match, it was Espanto Jr. and Akuma.
Yeah, I think they're a tag team now.
Yeah.
They're like trying to be a trio.
And what's funny is I liked their entrance coming out on bicycles, and I thought that was a kick, and I said, oh, now they're going to start wrestling.
Yes.
And then I saw, and it's Robin,
And who is his partner? Archelaus.
Archelaus, yes.
Archelaus is pretty good, though.
He is.
Yeah.
And I do have to say...
And Robin, I would say he's not horrible, but it's Robin.
It's Robin, yeah. And actually, this match, I really enjoyed it. I wouldn't have enjoyed it, say, if it was the third or fourth match.
Yeah.
But what I did like about it is there are no outside of the ring topes in the whole match.
Well, of course not. It's an opening match.
Yeah, but I've seen them kind of.
They don't do it in opening matches. It's not supposed to, but they do it like.
Yeah, exactly. They're not supposed to, but.
Yeah.
And the whole thing from beginning to end, including the entrance, was 16 minutes. And
16 minutes too long.
No, but everything was executed smoothly. There wasn't all these, like, really just kind of, I don't know.
Yeah.
There wasn't a lot of empty space in this time. And the other matches were paced similarly. I saw less people just going crazy with a lot of planchas and topes all over the place.
Well, it's CMLL. They don't really...
I saw a lot...
There's a lot of guys that weren't there, like, working the show, too.
That's true,
yeah.
but the other...
I have a feeling like they have some guys that aren't working regularly right now just because as the phone rings...
We're getting everything, including the
swear,
kitchen
it's
sink.
like, yeah.
Did you miss us, folks? This is awesome.
It's like, it was more of a... I think some of the guys aren't working as frequently because of the Fantastica Mania. I guess those guys get a little bit of a, some more time off.
Bit of a bump.
Yeah, so they give the guys that are local a little more.
Yeah.
That didn't get to go, they get more focus on. Although you still have Carbonario and a lot of the guys still working regularly.
Oh, some awesome stuff. Here's the interesting...
Honestly, it was more because of the guys they booked, like Gilbert and all those guys. They can't do half that stuff now anyways.
I was going to say, the two I did not enjoy seeing in the whole show.
Yeah.
The only two that kind of left me, were Gilbert and Diamante Azul.
Yeah.
You know how there's the whole fad of all the tourists going to the matches?
Yeah.
Is that like a Friday night thing, or is that...
That's
all
all
the
the
time?
that's all the shows.
Okay. Is it?
But I think they get more on Friday. That's the only difference. They get way more on Friday.
Because...
I don't know how bad it is for Tuesdays and Sundays, because, I mean, those shows look empty a lot.
No, because I was wondering if, and like you said, a lot of the regular crew isn't there, but they're definitely...
Well, no, they're there. The regular crew's already here, but it's like they're still not getting booked.
Right.
They're just mixing them up.
Yeah. So, what I was watching was, there definitely was a lot less, like, flying all over the place outside of the ring.
This sounds awful.
No, actually, well, okay, as a hardcore fan, I probably wouldn't have liked it. Now, here's the thing, though, is I noticed this crowd, at least this night, and I don't know if it's this way all the time, but this was an easy crowd. They were popping.
Yeah.
And I just keep thinking of what Rob Courtney told me about the time he and Tech 9 and Supreme and Joey Chaos knew Chris Jericho was at an incredibly strange show, did every high spot in the book hoping they'd impress him, and Jericho's reaction was, what was that? And they said it wasn't good, and Jericho said, no, it looked great. The thing is, you start a match off with a hip toss, and everybody went crazy. Well, keep doing hip tosses until they get tired of it.
Yeah.
And so I kind of wondered if they just felt they didn't have to do...
Everyone listening, this is like doing a podcast with Jim Cornette.
Well, there's a difference. I'm not angry about it.
Yeah.
I'm intrigued. And
you're not gonna like go on a rant and disassociate yourself from Dave Meltzer and all these other people.
Hell no.
Who like current wrestling.
No, and that drives me crazy. Is
we'll get into that a little more.
God,
but
yeah. But no, I was intrigued. I was just kind of wondering.
But also the thing is that because the one match I saw, they did a lot of stuff, and that was Soberano Junior Templario. So you still got a lot of stuff out of that.
That was pretty unique.
Yeah, they and I think that was the difference, because if you look at who was in like the matches, you're basically the main event was focused on Felino versus Carbonario.
I love that.
So they're automatically not going to do a lot of like high spots and stuff like that, because Felino can't do that stuff anymore. Not that he ever did, like he never was like a guy who did dives or stuff like that. But you're looking at that. Then you're going with Gilbert the other match had Gilbert and Diamante Azul, which is like awful. Yeah. Like why?
Absolutely. Yeah. I know the only cool thing in that match was seeing Gran Guerrero and Euphoria do that double swastika on the Chavez brothers.
Because the match I saw before with Casas and all them, they were doing dives.
They did dives, but they weren't doing them.
Like, they weren't doing them as frequently.
They weren't. No, definitely. You know, as little as I've seen, I've probably seen less dives on this show than I did in one match of what I would watch when I was just kind of sampling random tidbits here.
Yeah, and then CMLL, they kind of.
Yeah, and I might be giving them too much credit too. Because my first thought was, wow, who booked this? They actually like had people tone stuff down. That's smart.
There was this Torneo Cibernetico, the Rey del Aire, and which is funny because they did it during the Fantastic Mania tour. So you have half the 18, 20 guys are in Japan. Mm-hmm. So like the guys who you would think were high flyers are all in Japan. Mm-hmm. And they only had 4 high flyers in the Rey del Aire match. Mm-hmm. And they always, remember before they would have if it was 16 guys, half the guys were high flyers, the other half were guys who were just going to catch them.
Yes.
So you kind of already that
the Principe Indus of Mexico.
You would have Euphoria.
Yes.
Virus, and you'd be like, those guys don't high fly.
Yeah.
But they were there to make sure the match worked properly, and they Costas or somebody like that. Everybody would be confused by that because you can't have all 16 high flyers. Although it'd be kind of cool just because it would be different, and I'm sure some of those guys nowadays can do it. But it's so this time they only had 4, and maybe 2 of them are guys you could say are really really high flying. That's all, Templario and I think Star Junior were the 2 guys that you could say were really high flyers. And so they had Black Panther on there, and all he did in the entire match was tope suicidas. He did 6 topes. He did 6 tope suicidas.
He had to carry the load.
But that was his whole thing. He did not even he did he might have locked up for a little a second or something. But every time he would tag in, it was just to tag in and do a tope to somebody who had just been thrown to the outside.
Oh my god!
Which was really cool. It was really cool. It was really cool, but because it was everybody else you knew some of those guys couldn't do anything.
Yeah.
And even when they tried, it was a tope it's.
This is what we have to work with.
Yes, this is what we have. It's but I thought it was fun, but
I do wonder if there is this weird kind of perverse thought in the booking minds of CMLL where they say, okay, let's see how screwy we can make things and still survive as a company, but
because even the feud, Felino Carbonario is kind of the match they're building up. Mm-hmm. This is the feud that you saw in the main event. It's been 2 weeks that they started building it up at Niebla's Mr. Niebla's tribute show. They basically broke up Peste. Supposedly they broke up. But it's being CML. You know what's going to happen. They'll just probably reunite them again.
They'll forget about it.
3 weeks later, they'll just reunite again. I think it's a good angle, just story based, just because this group was together for 10 years, and I think Carbonaro was part of it for 4 or 5 years. So it tells you how long this group has been together. Breaking it up makes sense, but the problem is because at some point you just can't possibly have the same group over and over again. But it's they're doing this, but that's I swear this is my goodness.
Who's there?
This is it's all confusing me now. So then you have Felino, who's never been a headline guy, honestly.
Right.
He's been kind of the third guy in some trios and stuff with Peste Negra and stuff. But it's that's your main feud. When you have all these other guys, you should start building up, Carbonario versus Angel de Oro. That was something they could have done.
Yeah.
There's younger guys. Hechicero never gets any opportunity.
That's all.
Titan is barely he's kind of his opportunities maybe win the title match. But at this point at this point in time, they got to start building up with guys Mystico, Titan, Hechicero. The next Gran Guerrero, guys who are the next generation, the Dinamitas, and they still go back to we're gonna have to use Felino, Nero Casas. As good as Nero Casas is,
he's getting older.
Yeah, he should not be the focal point of the feud, unless it's a really cool feud. But even then, it's it should be the second tier type of feud.
Well, in fact, I really enjoyed his match because it wasn't there was any big angle or anything. No. But I love how he pins Stuka Jr. with the casita in the first fall, then Stuka Jr. pins him with the same.
And then he celebrates. He gets very upset and he starts crying over it. I thought that was awesome.
Costas is just awesome.
But it's one of those things where like at some point CML has to start like elevating the younger guys. And yeah, they've gotten like some of the younger guys don't get the same reaction because people don't like them. But how many times can you headline a show with Volador Jr.? I think that's what's kind of like... It's really killed Volador Jr. just because he's constantly being the main event guy.
Well, and that's one of the reasons I who am a diehard CMLL fan, I think I stopped watching it just because I felt I was watching the same exact show.
And it still is.
Yeah.
It still is.
And yet, but the thing is, they're drawing, it seems like.
Fridays.
Yeah, Fridays.
Yeah, Fridays.
Well, that's the interesting thing is I remember
And they're not paying anything. Like,
I was going to say...
Most of the guys aren't getting paid, so...
mean the guys on the undercard? I hope the guys
on the undercard don't get paid.
I'm not surprised.
Top guys don't make... Like, they probably do get paid decent.
Now, I was listening to the previous podcast that you did, and you were saying how the Tuesday night shows are the ones to watch, if you're going to watch.
I said that?
You said that tends to be the better night of the week.
Probably wasn't. I don't watch Tuesday, so I don't know.
Have you been getting into my stash?
I haven't. If I said that, I must have been drunk.
Well, I'll have to listen to it again because I might have been sober and misheard what I said.
Because I don't think I said anything about Tuesday.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to spark up the pipe and smoke a joint and then listen
to it. That's no secret. I've said for like the last 2 years I don't watch Tuesdays or Pueblas. Barely watch Fridays now.
Yeah.
I mean, there's only so much time I could watch just because I write a lot, so it's like...
Well, hell, really, there's only so many hours in the day, and you know me, I'm not going to spend time watching a bunch of other wrestling when...
Because, like, right now, a lot of how I watch Lucha now is, like, just watch the matches I like. Like, if there's somebody I like, I watch it. If it's bad, then I regret watching it, but at least, you know, the odds of it being good is just based on the guy who's in it.
Right.
But it's like, I won't watch opening matches just because CML opening matches you already know are bad.
Yeah, so believe me, this isn't something I'm going to be doing every week.
AAA shows have gotten a lot better, but there's always a couple of matches in between that I have no interest in watching. Like if it doesn't have like the good workers like Taurus, Hijo Vikingo, Poder del Norte, I will watch Poder del Norte matches, all the time just because they're really good. The main events have gotten a little better just because they have, they have Roosh and they have the, Lucha Brothers.
Yes.
Psycho Clown. But honestly, if those guys aren't in it, odds are the main event's not going to be that entertaining. So, there's a lot of stuff that I like to watch, but at the same time, there's a lot of stuff I don't like to watch. So.
Yes.
Yeah.
I hear you.
I don't know if I watched. I don't know who that. It could have been somebody else saying that about watching Tuesday shows. Maybe somebody snuck in and edited that in.
I was driving to my bro-in-law's house when I was listening to it, so I was driving there.
It might have skipped. It might have skipped the part where it said "Don't watch," and you just heard watch the Tuesday shows.
No, I was the fact that I was sober when I was driving. I might have misheard you. It's like
it's possible.
You remember the couple of months back when
because all I remember from that last show was I talked about 2 people dying and the psychosis Conan.
Those were great.
And the opening.
By the way,
the opening I did mention that I've only watched, but I was only watching. Well, what I did say was the Tuesday show did have the Reyes del Aire match, and there was something else that was on a Tuesday that was good. That was basically it.
Right.
But I wouldn't say that the shows were. I don't watch them.
The focal points of that show, I got to tell you, the Mr. Niebla passing, La Parca passing, and then your commentary on the Psychosis and Conan debacle. Very well said.
Do you think that's going to happen with Meltzer and Cornette? Do you think Meltzer will go slap Cornette next time he sees them? Or vice versa? I think Cornette might.
Yeah, he better watch out, though, because if he doesn't have his tennis racket.
Yeah. Because, that's what I thought. If you look at that whole thing, it was really just like a guy, I like Conan, but he does talk a lot of shit on Twitter, and
no, I agree.
He picked the wrong person to talk.
I agree.
Because you always hear guys say like, you would like the whatever they call the computer nerds, the keyboard nerds or whatever they call them, and they're like you wouldn't say that to my face, and obviously they wouldn't, but then like Conan did this to this one guy who told him, I'll see you soon. and it happened.
Yeah. Pick your battles wisely.
Yeah.
Pick your battles wisely. No, I seriously, I thought you looked at both sides of the issue very, very well, and just.
Whose side were you on? Neither.
Neither.
I don't think either side was right. I mean,
no, yeah, I think
it's stupid.
It's like Conan sounds like he was shit talking this guy, and sounds like Psychosis is this hothead who you shouldn't think twice about.
To me, who cares? Like, he already knows Conan doesn't like him. Mm-hmm. So what are you gonna get out of it? Like, to me, it was so stupid. It was pointless. He already knows Conan. What he got out of it was, like, he wanted to get more bookings and, indie bookings or whatever he was going to get, because that's what everybody does. Get yourself a little bit of fame. You get some extra bookings. You might lose some, but you end up getting some from people who don't like,
Absolutely.
who can't get like the guy who threw the cinder block at that guy. He got a lot of bookings afterwards. Yeah, so then this guy got bookings because he slapped Conan. So to me, that's that. And then, like, to me with Conan, it's like, I mean, why bring it? Like, who cares?
Oh, and wrestlers have done this for ages. But the first thing I think of is the famous when Randy Savage was with ICW and went with Pez Whatley and I can't remember who the third guy was to confront Bill Dundee, who was with Jarrett.
It wasn't Rip Rogers, was it?
It wasn't Rip Rogers.
Yeah.
Definitely wasn't it. I don't picture Rip Rogers doing something so staunchly unprofessional.
I remember there was somebody, and I do remember there was a third guy.
I can't remember if it was Lanny Poffo or not.
Might have been. Oh, no, it might have been his dad.
It might have
Angelo.
been. We'll have to look it up at another time.
Well, I think Cornette told the story.
Yeah, and it's so funny because I've heard so many different versions of that story. First version I ever heard was actually from Cornette's good friend Norm Dooley. And
they made it sound like Savage was going to beat him up. Wasn't that the original version?
Yeah, the original version I heard was the people that were accompanying Savage thought that they were just gonna try to intimidate him, and that Dundee, yes, and that out of nowhere Savage just popped him, know, and and this, according to this very first version I heard, was that Pez Whatley freaked out because he didn't expect that to happen. He thought they were just gonna just beat their chests, and just scare him. And I had heard that Dundee went for a gun in his car, which I think I would have done also if I had a gun and 3 people were assaulting me. But you hear this stuff going way back, like which world champion was it in the 30s? I think it was Ray Steele, another wrestler. Assaulted him on the street in downtown LA.
Damn.
And the way they wrote it up, or the way it's been written up in history, was he beat the hell out of Ray Steele, but no, I think it's something like he sucker punched him and
then just stopped.
Yeah, and didn't do more than annoy him.
Of course, it's wrestling. They always make it.
That's the other thing. People bullshit in wrestling, and I think that's why we've heard so many.
Well, that was what was so funny about the whole Ripper Conan thing, because everybody saw what happened, and then these two guys are talking about it. Like, first of all, you had Ripper saying that he was very anti-violence. I'm like, dude, you fucking slapped him, and you look like you showed up. He was jacked.
I saw that.
He was jacked.
I saw that.
And then Conan's version was that if those two other guys weren't around, he would have punched them back. And I'm like, dude, you're not in any condition. Like, no. You're in no condition to take on that guy. And that dude, we met Ripper. Mm-hmm. Remember, we met him in LA, and that dude did not look. And we talked to Superboy, we talked to other people, and they were like, "You do not want to mess with that guy. He's not somebody you want to mess with." So, I just thought it was dumb because the way it came up was like, Ripper was asked about why he wasn't in Triple Eight shows, TV shows, and he mentioned the whole Conan thing. But the way somebody linked the podcast or something, the interview or something, and then Conan had to seek it out to just call, I guess Conan did a vanity search or something on Twitter, because they didn't even tag Conan on that. I don't think they might have tagged him. Mm-hmm. Knowing people trying to stir shit up, they probably tagged him. He just responded to it. He's like, I don't see you anywhere else. You're not in CMLL. You're not in Nacion. You're not in any other place. And it's like, dude, why did you have to do that?
I know.
Yeah, so. But that was just one of those weird stories that happened. It's like, what was the whole point?
Very strange. And it is interesting in this day and age when something like that goes down. From what you said, it sounds like they Ripper's pals intentionally videotaped it.
Yeah.
Where in the past, before, you'd have a video camera, let alone a camera at all.
Well, if there was a camera, you knew it worked.
Exactly.
I mean, let's be honest.
Exactly.
Because if you watched old ECW, they always did that. Like, they would
Yes.
do confrontations, like, in hotels or something. And if there's a camera, you know it's a work.
Yes.
It's like, you already knew it's a work. Even, like, in, like old days when, let's show you there's a wild brawl backstage. And it's like, oh, you already know it's a work.
Exactly. Yeah.
So anything involving, like, even, like, that whole Andy Kaufman stuff with Jerry Lawler. You knew it was work when they did that whole thing in Letterman, remember?
Actually, a lot of people thought
Yeah.
it was legit.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Yeah.
But you still knew it was a work. Like, now you kind of have to.
Yeah,
like,
I mean, I knew it was, I mean, we pretty much knew it was a work, but I remember, the first thing that clued us in, who didn't have even a VCR in '82,
yeah.
is just looking, I can't remember if it was Newsweek or Time, but they had a photo of Lawler pile driving Kaufman.
Yeah.
And you could see Kaufman going up for it. You
Yeah.
know? And so, even if you had any question, you'd know right away.
It's weird because back then, like, because a lot of those guys that watch that are now the smart fans.
Yeah.
And, like, but they were fooled back then. You got fooled a lot back then.
A lot of people got
But
fooled
it's like
by that.
now, like, a lot of that stuff, if they did it now, I mean, would we get fooled by it? Like, would we get fooled? Like, if, let's say, this sort of thing happened in, like, now, 2020, would we get fooled that, oh, yeah, it's real or whatever? We wouldn't.
We wouldn't.
We would be like, oh, come on.
If I was going to try to pull something
Yeah.
like that, like if I was...
You couldn't have the match, first of all.
You wouldn't have the match. And two, I would have somebody like hardway me in a way that would
Yeah.
not look like a worked punch.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't sell it by flying backwards. I just kind of slumped down
Yeah.
to make it look like it was...
There's certain things you could still do. Like, you could have, like, okay, if you have the match, there's a way you could work it where, yeah, like you said, you don't sell it the same way. If you get punched, you fall down, and that's it. You're not gonna, let me fall through the ropes and dangle there or whatever.
Exactly.
But you're gonna have to do it in a certain way where it looks like legitimately real. And then, like, when you do the appearance on, let's say, Colbert or Jimmy Kimmel or whatever show it is, Fallon, you're gonna have to, like, continue it that way. I still think we'd still be like, oh, it's work.
Oh, yeah. Totally.
Twitter would be nonstop with it being a work. So, Kurt, you actually had a Hall of Fame vote, and I was going to bring this up.
Yes.
Because it got brought up. I was listening to the podcast, the 605 Super Podcast, and you were a guest on there. And for whatever reason, Brian Last, who is pretty much like Cornette, doesn't like this individual wrestler. And you actually voted Kenny Omega for he was on your ballot, right?
Yes.
Kenny Omega?
Yes.
Yeah, so is this the end of your friendship with Jim Cornette? you have no friendship with him.
I'm not friends with him, and I only met him once.
Don't you think that is like the dumbest thing? Like, to break up a friendship? And honestly, how much of a friendship is it with Cornette and Meltzer? I mean, it's more of an acquaintance, honestly.
They used to be really good friends.
They were really good friends?
But that is a long time ago,
Yeah.
I do believe.
Yeah, so, because it's like, to me, like, we don't like a lot of, like, you come from, like, incredibly strange wrestling. I mean, I know you're gonna like weird wrestling. You're gonna like wrestlers that are very different to what I like.
Well, in the very first year I started watching wrestling, I was even though I got to see a lot of luchadores, like, Raul Mata, Rey Mendoza, which was like gold standard in LA wrestling, LA wrestling was very different than, say, Florida or Northwest. It was very kitschy. It was, like Freddie Blassie filing his teeth on TV.
I think that's I think that's also the other thing. Like, I think we realize, and maybe that's where to be fair, Cornette followed Memphis. Memphis is very nuts.
And I also have to say, it was the very first year I was watching wrestling when I got turned on to Titanes and El Rey.
Yeah. So then, like, even though we might not like certain wrestlers the same way, we still have that connection where we still kind of like, it kind of intersects a lot of the stuff we like. I like Lucha, you like Lucha. Mm-hmm. We like some of the weirder characters in pro wrestling, but it's like, I don't think, like, Kenny Omega, you liking Kenny Omega and me, I don't actually dislike him. I actually think he's good, but it's like, I don't, it's not like I'm going to go out of my way to watch him compared to, like, and I actually, that's not even true, because I did think he did really well in AAA, the last two matches that he's had with Phoenix and Dragon Lee.
I have to be honest.
So,
I do search him on
yeah,
YouTube now because
so
I think he's a great.
Yeah, so
wrestler.
it's a very different thing. Like I think my thing when you said you voted him for the Hall of Fame. First of all, my initial reaction was just me laughing because you brought it up on that show where not only does it's not just Brian and Cornette that dislike him, but it kind of feels like a lot of the people that follow those two guys kind of parrot their their likes and dislikes in pro wrestling.
I have to be honest, bluntly honest, and apologies to my friends in 605 who...
You do not like Kenny Omega. This is where you reveal...
No. This is what I'm going to say.
This is where you say all the stuff you really don't...
If they don't like Kenny Omega, well, one, I think a lot of them are parroting what Jim and Brian say. And if they don't like him, that's cool. But this is what I want to say. I hear some of them saying he's a terrible wrestler, which is...
Not true.
Is ignorant. So ignorant.
He's just different.
He's
a different type. But
and
there's thousands. Every wrestler, you should try to be different.
His facial expressions alone are amazing.
I'm not a big fan of his facial expressions.
Oh,
I think that's the separation.
You know what I like about his facial expressions is one...
It's too comedy for me.
Well, they're so over the top, but they are always there.
Yeah.
He never...
But I think that's just his personality. So it's like I don't get why people get worked up about it. It's like, who cares? It's like,
well, and I think he's smart also because who else does facial expressions the way he does?
Yeah, and
so
I think
he sticks out.
And I think that's where, and then Cornette, the thing that he doesn't like is like his past. Kenny Omega wrestling the little kid, the little girl,
and wrestling a blow up doll.
Which I like the blow up doll.
I give perks to that. I would. That's another reason. That's one of the reasons I voted him into the Hall of Fame.
If you told me, would I rather watch the blow up doll wrestle Kenny Omega or anybody, Kota Ibushi or anybody that's in DDT? Would I rather watch that, or would I rather watch Steber, the main man, Charlie Rockstar, and the Chris wrestle trios matches in CML? I will watch the blow up doll versus anyone. I will watch the blow up doll against you. You and
I are in agreement here, 100%.
You know, so it's not. It's like, to me, it's like, you know, I don't know. It's so, and I get, yes, there's certain things in wrestling where people start thinking that's what's killing the business, but it really isn't. Like, none of that stuff. Like,
it isn't.
The whole comedy stuff, like a reporter winning a title, you know, one of those silly titles, 24/7 title, whatever they are, a blow up doll, all this stuff. There's something for everyone. The problem I have for myself is that I don't think there's a promotion that gives me like everything I want. And I don't think, and that's, but I think everybody gets that anyways. Like, I think all of us have that one. We don't have a promotion that gives us everything we want.
And no, you know what? And something that I do have to say is even when I was watching wrestling as a child, every week, like not missing a show, and if there was a TV show that had something from another region, I was there to watch it. You still didn't get everything.
Yes, exactly. Like, I watched every episode of Mid-South Wrestling. Like, let's say if I watched every episode of Mid-South Wrestling, odds are I didn't want to watch Kamala wrestle. You know,
unless it was a squash that was like 2 minutes.
Like 2 minutes. Maybe I didn't want to see Junkyard Dog working out. You know, I didn't want to see Butch Reed lifting weights and dancing to work that body or whatever the fuck it was called.
To music videos, which might have looked cool because wrestling didn't have many music videos before that. But
the Fabulous Ones videos.
Oh, the ones that West Hollywood would love.
The ones where when you're a kid, you're thinking, man, these guys must be cool. Look at how cut they are. Look at how jacked. And then like maybe like a couple of days later, you're thinking, you know, this might not be my cup of tea. You know?
Well, it's so funny because I remember when those Fabulous One videos first started airing. I believe it was '84, and I remember getting tape from somebody and seeing them, and I'm saying, wow, if you put these on at a bar in West Hollywood, man,
there'd be a lot of people there.
But if I told somebody from a region other than like New York or California, they'd say, we don't know what you're talking about. And I will not name names, but some of those people today says, oh yeah, I knew back then it looked gay.
Yeah. Yeah, because they took it seriously. That's the thing. Like they thought it was like, oh, it's to get the women, and it's like, I don't think it's gonna get.
No, in Memphis it probably did at the time.
Yeah,
at the time,
yeah. So it's
did,
like,
but...
I mean, even like in Lucha, like they have the Exoticos, and I like the Exoticos, the good ones, but there's a lot of them that aren't really good, and then there's a lot of them that do a lot of repetitive stuff that gets kind of old.
Yes.
So, but it's not
for every Pimpinela, there's.
But it's not their fault. I mean, it's that they're on so often, and it's like you're gonna get tired of it. The act wears on you after a while. Whereas if you're somebody who just got new into it, you're like, oh, this is amazing, and then like you could still last a little longer watching it.
Well, that's one of the reasons I really dug that period of the 90s when Reina, Mayflowers, and Bimpy got pushed, is because they added more than just the comedy that Bayo Greco and Sergio El Hermoso did. I liked Greco and Hermoso, but it was all comedy, and plus they made it look like if you're gay, you're a pussy.
Yeah.
Pimpy and Reina and Flowers made it look like we're gay and we're badass.
And then the other thing was that they were more high flying also.
Yes,
it was a transition to the more high flying style in the 90s.
Yes.
So are you going to ask Meltzer if you can now be his best friend? now that Cornette is.
I'm gonna call him up, and when he answers the phone,
you should be like, Dave. I can't believe you like Kenny Omega. I'm not going to speak to you any further.
I want to go back to the old days of wrestling when in Memphis, when they had the San Diego Chicken dropkick people. And when Jim Cornette, there was a match where he wrestled Jimmy Hart, and he came in like wearing like a baseball helmet and all this padding and stuff. And man, wrestling is campy, and
Yeah, I know. That's what I was trying to explain to him. It was like it's never been taken. Like, why do you guys like? Because like even like earlier today on Twitter, people were like, "Oh, the lucha. I don't get the lucha style. It's not realistic. It's not. It's how can anybody fall for that? It's not realistic." And Meltzer's trying to defend it. It's like just not. I mean, wrestling isn't, for the most part, none of it is realistic.
None of it is.
If you believe it.
I think people are looking through the past with rose-colored glasses.
Yeah.
Now, there are some a lot more full episodes of Georgia Championship Wrestling on YouTube.
Yeah.
I dare somebody to watch full episodes. Not just the highlights when you see Bruiser Brody and Stan Hansen come out there.
I watched a lot.
Yeah, there were some really good jobbers like George South, Dale Vesey, Mike Jackson. Yeah. But there were some bad jobbers too.
Somebody posted a clip of Hogan wrestling in WW, like his early run with Black.
I saw that.
Did you see that? And the guy, he would give him a clothesline or like punch him, and the guy's supposed to bounce off the ropes, but he just kept falling through the ropes.
Yes.
I thought that was awesome.
There was one, I don't know if this is, I remember seeing this when I was like 15. I don't know if all the tapings are on WWE Classics or not. I still haven't seen any WWE.
The network.
But
they stopped uploading a lot of stuff.
Yeah, because I remember there was a match with Kevin Sullivan when he was a rookie, and he threw, I think it was Steve King, who was a jobber in WWF back when it was WWF. And he throws him into the ropes, and the guy just fell right through the ropes, and Vince McMahon sold it like, oh my God, look at the force that Kevin and Sullivan. Even as a 13-year-old, I said, oh, that poor clumsy guy fell on his ass.
Why was Antonino Rocca the other announcer?
My hunch is Vince had a soft spot for him, and the reason I say that is because...
He's horrible. You might have been... He is without question the worst commentator I've ever heard.
The one I'll never forget is Crusher Blackwell was wrestling in...
WWF.
Yes, and then Vince McMahon says, and here is Crusher Blackwell. They say he used to be a preacher in Stone Mountain, Georgia. I wonder what he preached, Antonino. Well, it's probably the Bible, Vince.
my favorite. This is my favorite. I saw this. Vince is. I think it's the last match on the show, and Vince is like, Antonino, what do you think of this match? It's a very, very good match. Vince, do you mind if I take off my shoes?
Well, I'll tell you why they used him. One,
he was awesome. He was bad.
Yeah,
but he always
so bad is good.
Yes, it's hilarious.
And I'll tell you why they used him is when Dr. Jerry Graham went to New York. Remember when he did that one Tuesday night Titan appearance in '85? I don't think he had made an appearance at Madison Square Garden in like a good 20 years.
Wow.
And when he was in public, people still remembered him. So they remembered Rock. If they remembered Dr. Jerry Graham, they were definitely going to remember Rocket.
Yeah.
There's something of I mean, people had a great memory for wrestlers of the past. Or not all the wrestlers of the past, but the people on top. And Rocket was huge. And plus, I remember, Rocket died in 77, and then...
Oh, he died in 77? Oh, my goodness.
49 years old.
Damn. Because I think I'm on like 76, so I guess I'm done listening to Rocka.
Yeah, that's about it.
Who takes over after he passes away? Don't remember.
I don't remember.
I guess I'll figure it out when I get to that.
Because when I watched it back then, it was only... It's like one of the UHF stations would air it, and they would be on for 3 months, and then you wouldn't see WWF.
It's very sporadic. The shows they have on WWE Network are very sporadic. This is the All-Star Wrestling, I think, is what it was. Right?
Yeah.
WWF's All-Star Wrestling. But Rock is hilarious because it's like, I don't think he's even like I almost imagine him like just not like getting like drinks and stuff, and Vince calling the match, and Rock's probably like talking to people and stuff, and like Vince will be like, Antonino, what do you think of this match? Oh, it's a blah, 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 blah. And I was like, I'm going to take off my shoes now.
Rocka was huge in the Northeast. And, he even, he was a little overconfident. I guess he had a beef with Vince Sr. and tried to promote in the Northeast himself. Wow. And I think probably lost all his money doing that. But they still knew... his value, and when they started running WWF TV in '83 here in LA, I remember in one episode they showed a match where he was doing the commentating, and before he commentated, he got in the ring and they showed him actually throwing off his shoes. That was something he did.
I guess it must have been something he did. Also.
So, and then I remember after they showed that little blast from the past. Vince Jr. actually looked like he was almost going to shed a tear.
Yeah, I mean, because he was.
Miss him.
Yeah, he's been there with him.
I think he had a soft spot for.
I imagine he did. Yeah,
as he did Blassie.
But it's like to me the whole thing about the whole realistic and, I mean, it's so silly. Like
it is silly.
The argument over that stuff.
It's totally silly. Yeah. You like what you like.
Yeah, I mean, we all grew up liking something completely different. Sometimes you kind of like don't like I've known people who don't like lucha at all, and it's like. It's fine. It's not like I'm going to stop talking to them or anything. That's basically my main thing that I like. But that doesn't mean I can't find something else that I enjoy. I watch a lot of Japanese wrestling too.
I was going to say, anybody who bitches and moans in this day and age... In fact, people bitch and moan, I think, more than I remember them in the past. Yeah.
They've always bitched and moaned, but I think now because it's on the internet, maybe if we didn't have the internet, we would...
Well, the only people who bitched and moaned when I was like 19 or 20 was... I'll be full disclosure, I bitched and moaned about the repetitiveness of WWF.
Well, to be fair, WWF in the 70s was really boring.
It was. Well, this was in the 80s, when they kept reigniting the John Studd Andre feud.
Yeah.
But you know what? Yeah, that drove me crazy. But you know what? It still did business. I was a young fan, and I took it way too seriously. And I think that's what people are doing today. The only thing is, you have your choice of anything to watch now. Back then, you had your choice of what was on TV.
Yeah.
Nothing else.
And now it's like you could, if you want to watch, you're a fan of some specific wrestler, you could stream it online, you pay your iPay-per-view, whatever it is now, or you go on WWE Network, you can watch whatever you want on there. You can watch on TV still, AEW, WWF, or you can watch, on YouTube. YouTube's practically has everything on there.
If you only like classic wrestling, there's tons of stuff for you to watch.
Yeah, because you got WWE Network and YouTube with all that stuff.
And present-day wrestling, anything.
Yeah.
Almost anything.
Yeah.
And when I first started to get to know wrestlers, you know what the veteran wrestlers, and this was like around 82, 83, you know what veteran wrestlers complained about the most?
Too much wrestling on TV.
No, the young guys are killing the business.
And they still, that's what they talk about.
They do too much comedy.
Yes, and they still talk about then the young guys are killing the business.
And I lay odds when those veterans I talked to when I was 20, 21, when they were young, they were probably shrugging and shaking their heads at the old guys in the business then.
Yeah.
You know, I remember reading an interview with Strangler Lewis complaining about how wrestling has gotten too violent in the 30s. You know, so it's like,
You know, I was watching this interview with Blue Panther, and he was talking about how they asked him what he thought about the changes in wrestling and all that, the evolution and all that. And he was one of the first people that made it. He made the comment that the one thing he doesn't like about current wrestling, it's actually not current wrestling. He's like, he doesn't like the fact that wrestlers, and he's like, it's not just the young guys. There's a lot of wrestlers, guys who've been around for a while, who don't know the history of professional wrestling.
amen.
He said there are guys. He's like, they will like to trash like the media and stuff like that. But I bet I bet you there's people who are like reporters, who are fans, who probably know more about our history than the guys that are getting into the business.
Spot on.
And he was just like, because he was talking about, they asked him about how they were talking about how wrestling has evolved, and he's like, can you lucha libre, how lucha libre has evolved. He's like, a lot of people think what I do is like the maestro style, is like the original style. He's like, my style isn't even like the old style. He's like, the original style was just guys tossing each other around the ring. It's like, that's the first lucha libre style.
Yeah.
It's like guys just grabbing each other and tossing each other across the ring. Then came a second style, and he started talking about he explained all the styles. It's a really interesting interview.
Man, I'd love to.
So then he's like, he said the third style is like when the maestros, whatever you're calling whatever we're doing now, that's what it was back then, the technical, the mat-based style. Then came high flying, and then obviously came the torero style, and then like now it's way crazier with all the the dives and stuff like that. But he's like everybody gets that all wrong. He's like they're very confused with how it all started. And he was like, but people don't really they don't take the time to learn.
They don't.
And
style. That's the funny part is how passionate people are. But when you talk about history, they're like, oh yeah, I remember when wrestling started 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, I remember that. That was back when I first started. Like the old days of wrestling. It's like 1995.
I remember. Well, in fact, 1995. Driving up to Incredibly Strange Show. I'm not going to name the guy because he's a very nice guy. I like him a lot, but he was. We were driving up to San Francisco for an Incredibly Strange Show. This was somebody who grew up on WF TV from I think late 80s. And he was complaining about how nobody gives the pioneers of the business any kind of credit and stuff like that, and how the people who paved the way for us, people are forgetting them. And then about maybe an hour later, as we're going Highway 99, he's mentioning how a relative used to have a ranch in Escondido, and how they used to. Down towards San Diego, and they had avocado groves, commercial avocado groves, and how he and his cousins would ride horses in them. And I said, avocado groves, huh? So that must mean Escondido. And he goes, how did you know? And he goes, well, when Jim Londos retired from wrestling, that's what he did with his money. He invested in avocado groves in Escondido. And he looked at me and goes, who? I'm going, probably the biggest drawing card of the 1930s. And he just shook his head and shrugged. And I wanted to lean over, open the door, and shove him out into the highway.
Did you ask him what
Which would have been a dumb thing for me to do since he was driving.
Yeah. What were the pioneers he was referring to?
Like Sergeant Slaughter.
Sergeant Slaughter.
Yeah. And the other reason I don't want to mention his name is he actually not only knows who Jim Londos is today, but knows a lot about him. So I want to cut him some slack. But you still run into that.
Is this somebody we're gonna I've met?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
That's awesome.
A wonderful person, so that's why I'm not going to mention
but it's funny because you do get a lot of stuff. Like, I always get this, people will be like, oh, I really, I love learning about the history of Lucha Libre and all this stuff, and I am a big fan. Can you tell me more about the AAA formation? And it's like, okay.
Yeah.
That's basically when you think Lucha Libre started, right? It's because they're very, it kind of there are you get a lot of people who want to know about current Lucha Libre, and then maybe Mystico, that period, and then you have the 90s, but then the 80s people just start disappearing. It's oh, we don't really want to know about who are these guys, we don't know about. Well, they do want to know because there's a lot of Hulk Hogan and a lot of guys who were Americans.
Oh God,
were actually
tapes of them?
Were guys who actually worked in Mexico, or Andre the Giant, guys like that. So there's still a little bit of interest in that. But then once you get past 1980, it's like if you go 70s back, it's like there's no real interest, and there's a lot of interesting stuff because there's a lot of foreigners that actually worked in Mexico that were pretty big names, and
oh God, wouldn't you love to be able to get those Toreo shows where people like Hogan and Backlund and Patterson.
Patterson versus Connect, I think, was one of the matches at one point.
I would love to see that
for the title. Backlund versus Connect for his title also.
Absolutely.
I think that's also like a lot of people like they have this very low opinion of like luchadors that from that time period because they only saw them as they got older, so they don't view them at that level. Like for whatever reason, like if I say this guy was really good, like look at Sangre Chicana. It like I always said, like even before video existed, I was telling people Sangre Chicana was really good, and it's like and even if I had only seen them very limited amount of time, if you just look at what the magazines were saying about them, you knew they were good. Like you could tell like the magazines will bullshit about certain people, and actually not even true because lucha magazines, for whatever reason, if somebody was bad, they would tell you he was bad. Remember,
lucha magazines were light years ahead of any other country. Their wrestling, the one that shocked me the most is when I first, I've been collecting them since I was a kid, but I didn't really start reading them until the late 80s. And I remember reading a magazine that was, I think, from sometime in the 1960s.
Yeah.
And they talked about, I think it was, I think I even brought it up in another episode of LuchaWorld, but it was Black Shadow versus somebody really good. I can't remember who it was. And they were talking about, like, it was a huge disappointment.
Yeah.
Like, they just, like, it was a terrible match. I'm like, whoa, you would never hear that in an aftermatch.
Well, it's like the EMLL UWA, the first show they did where it was co-promoted. They just totally like bashed it. They were like, it sucked. Like they were like, there was, and then there's another magazine that says like, well, it wasn't as expected, but they weren't as negative. But it's like there was other magazines like, it sucked, it was awful. And then like there's wrestlers where they'll talk about a wrestler and they'll be like so and so, he's in Mexico, he's trying, but he's not that good. They did this list of the foreigners one year, and I think this was in the 60s. And it was like 10 different foreigners, and they said not a single one of them impressed. They were just like, not a single one impressed.
Well, and then the closest thing we had to that in this country, anyways, was Ring Wrestling Magazine in the 70s.
Yeah.
And similar, they did kayfabe, but they would be rather blunt about some things. And then there are other things where you could read between the lines if you were a smart fan.
Yeah.
And that was the closest you got to Lucha Max. I remember I used to think, since Japan wrestling was so stellar and just so great that, and I'd see their magazines with all these great photos in them and stuff like that. And then being in Japan and finding out that that a lot of times, sometimes they'd even write the results in the magazines without watching the magazines. Sometimes assuming what the finishes would be or asking what the finishes would be.
Yeah.
What was the other one? And the ultimate was when I was with Meltzer in Mexico in Tijuana when Onita was there in 1990 and Jimmy Suzuki was taking pictures. And at the end of the night, Dave says, "Hey, Jimmy, I have all the results." And he goes, "Oh, no, not necessary. I make up."
Well, they honestly just want to know how Onita did in Mexico, so it's not.
Yeah.
They didn't really care about the results.
Exactly.
Because I think that's, and I've had fans tell me that, like, why do you write all these results? Nobody cares, and it's like.
But that's
there are some fans
silly,
that like it. I think there's a mix. I mean, there's some people like that stuff. There's some people who don't like that stuff. You just gotta kind of favor.
See, one of the things I like about seeing results is that tells the story of the territory.
It tells
you who's a good hand in the ring, who is on top. If you went over results, you could probably surmise who might have been the territory's policeman. They're fun stuff like that.
I like reading. Yeah, and then I like reading that stuff just because, like, especially with lucha, like in the early '80s. Like, you start noticing, like, EMLL was very, like, old school. Even back then, like, they, like, UWA had, like, the guys I grew up thinking were stars were in UWA, really. And then in EML is basically Tony Salazar.
Yes.
Guys more like their Alfonso Dantes. Guys who were, like, kind of more, that looked more traditional, like more. They weren't like the guys who were like, oh, this is Herodes.
Yes.
But they were really good. I mean, don't get me wrong, but when you first read it, you're not really thinking about them as the level of the guys that were in UWA. Like, you weren't thinking of them at the level of Canek, Villano Tercero, Paraguayo, because those guys were like larger than life. Whereas Tony Salazar and those guys might have been good, but they weren't at that level of like star power.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
But I mean, it's cool to see that, and then now you kind of changes your perspective on a lot of those guys. Because I think like even like somebody like Tony Salazar, he would never be in a Hall of Fame, but he still was really good. I mean, he was
great. Well, I the first time, other than seeing him in the Lucha Mag, seeing Alfonso Dantes was at the 1977 Battle Royal show in L.A. He wrestled George Wells.
That guy was really good too, Alfonso Dantes.
Yeah. And you know, George Wells was as good as an opponent, and this was 77, so he was even greener.
Mm-hmm.
Dantes made that match great. Next to the Dory Funk and Chavo match, that was the best match of the night.
Chavo was really good too.
Oh, and the Dory match, man, you want to scream, knowing that match.
It was recorded. There's so much stuff like as you go through it, especially, and it's even worse with Lucha Libre because as I go through Lucha magazines, you have like matches and you're like, man, like Nero Casas versus Fuerza Guerrera, the first match.
Could you imagine?
That being available would have been so awesome. And then you just keep going through and it's like, okay, this is kind of depressing me. The whole UWA stuff. Yeah. Like you look at like, it'll have like Atomicos with Misioneros teaming up with like Canek or Buffalo Allen against like Paraguay teaming up with like the Misioneros versus like Gran Hamada, Solitario.
Oh my God!
Like we two other really good, like Wagner and somebody.
Dream shows.
Yeah.
Dream
and you're like,
shows.
Jesus. Like not even like one match out of those shows do you get.
Now, we know that the Santo retirement match.
The other one that pisses me off is Black Shadow versus Caverna Galindo. I've been seeing a lot of that stuff because I've been going through.
Yes, I've been seeing that too.
I'm like,
yes,
damn it.
Man, can you imagine?
Yeah.
I mean, if I could go back in time, I'd love to see one of the bloodbaths.
Of Carbonara and Gory?
Yes, that's what I'd love to see. Now,
but there's very few people that are into like that stuff because there's
I know,
like,
I'm in
stuff.
the minority.
Like there's like only a handful of people, and it's like it's unfortunate because you kind of wish, man, if more people were into that, you could focus on that stuff. And it's like, but there isn't.
And the funny thing is,
because honestly, like if you look at the classic, like even like 605 Super Podcast, which is kind of like a podcast for like the fans who are like older wrestling, they don't really focus on a lot of the really really old stuff. Like they might like for a little bit, but there's always like that return to like WCW, WWF, ECW, the stuff in the 80s, in the 70s. So it's like it's not as focused on some of the older stuff. Like
and
I'm sure Brian would want to do.
Man, if I could get a hold of any Mexico tapes in the 60s and 70s,
yeah,
I'd be a kid in a candy store.
Yeah,
I would have diabetes by the end of the day. But and what I'm curious about, when Dave and I went to Japan, video stores rented out, wrestling tapes.
Yeah.
Lots of them, not just, and they had a bunch from Mexico. And we watched them, and we meant to, because we were copying them at Wally Yamaguchi's place. And I don't know what happened. Somehow we didn't.
Dave has them in his garage.
And Michael Eno has them now.
Yeah.
But no.
Well, Dave, you never saw that video where he showed like where his house and everything.
Yes.
Yeah, like the storage area, and he had like all these tapes.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah, and I remember he had tons of tapes back in the day. No, but we rented out some UWA tapes, and I was sitting there saying, "Wait, I didn't know they taped all these shows." But there was stuff out. There's stuff out there, and I'm assuming because the Santo retirement match.
Yeah, I made it.
And I think there's still some stuff.
There has to be some stuff available. Yeah. They're just not releasing it.
And every now and then you see some of those kinescopes of CMLL from the 60s. Yeah. So you assume there's more there. They're just...
Maybe someday there will be all that stuff available.
I hope so.
Yeah,
I'm such a nerd. I'm such a history nerd. I'd love to see all that old stuff.
Yeah, I kind of prefer watching that stuff or just reading up on that stuff than some of the... I was watching, there's this guy who has this YouTube channel. It's a really good YouTube channel in Spanish. It's called Misticiero TV. And he did this like little feature on Felix Kid Celestino. I don't know if you ever heard of him.
No, that's
Kid
not
Celestino. He is a luchador that wrestled without hands.
No way.
Yeah. And he told the story of him, and I thought that was a really good video. And basically what happened was he was a guy who worked on the railroad, but he was also into sports, so he did boxing. He actually had a pretty successful amateur boxing career. Didn't really do as much, and then he got into wrestling, and he started wrestling. This was like in the 40s and 50s. And in 1945, he was in an accident where I guess the train the railroad he was working on, I guess his hands, somehow he got stuck or something, and they had to amputate both of his hands. So what happened was the railroad union got him a job selling newspapers and magazines, a newsstand. He did that in Monterey. This was in Monterey, and he did that and he actually did that the remainder of his life. I think he just kept doing it. But one day, one of his friends showed up, and because he was still pretty young, I think he was born in like 1911 or 1918, something like that. So it was like 1950. And his friend goes over, and he's like, 5 years later, so 1950, he goes over, and he's like, he sees something, he's like, hey, you want to go to a lucha show? And he invited him to go to a lucha show, and he got the wrestling bug again. But he was missing hands. But he still got back into wrestling, and apparently, like, when he first started wrestling, he was an attraction in the northern part of Mexico. Monterrey, Torreon, Juarez, all those parts of Mexico, he was an attraction because they wanted to go see the wrestler with no hands. So what ended up happening is, like, as they saw him, he didn't have hands, but they realized is that he also was a really good worker. So he was apparently really good, and he became like a bit of a star in that area.
Well, I love stories like that.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
But see, like, that's the thing. Like, I like that sort of story. I like stories. That's why I like doing all those podcasts about like even like when I do the obit stuff. I prefer doing that stuff than actually just watching current wrestling, because it's like, how much can you possibly watch?
Well, and also it's great you do that because
nobody else does it.
yeah, exactly. And those are fascinating stories, and I think there are people who appreciate it, But there's not a lot of people who are going to go through the hassle you go through for writing them.
Yeah.
It's probably fun writing them,
Yeah,
too.
yeah. It is actually fun, because it's like you just like, oh, I forgot about this, and you remember it, or I didn't know about this. Like, especially when it's somebody like Alberto Munoz when he passed away.
That was a great obit, by the way.
Yeah, that was more because I didn't actually know a lot about him, other than he was a star in the 60s. I knew that, but I didn't know about all the other stuff. So it was like, or even like, I didn't know everything specific about him. So it's always fun to find all that information and look through it, and it's...
Well, when I did that story on Charo Aguayo a few years ago, I had the time of my life doing all the research for that.
Yeah.
I mean, I just dig that stuff.
And that's what I prefer doing. Like, it's like, running down a show about lucha. It's like,
yeah,
I could do that too, but it's like, it's
like I've watched a lot of wrestling.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people, my age or range are like this. I think you watch so much wrestling, I still enjoy watching it, but I don't have the same passion I used to. Now my passion is more just kind of studying the roots of the business, and and that's so cool when you brought the guy Felix. What was his last name?
Felix Celestino.
It's kind of like something like Greg Oliver or Steve Johnson would write.
Yeah.
I mean.
Did you see Slam did I didn't read it, but Roy Lucier and the Cubs fan told me about, they kind of just bring it up. I don't know how bad it was, but apparently the La Parca obit they did was really bad.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Oh.
I don't know how bad it was. I think we'll have to ask Roy about it.
Usually their pieces are what Oliver or Johnson does are really good. The one time I cringed is when they did Budokan's autobiography, his obituary. Some of the stuff was true, but it was a lot of the stuff was stuff that Budokan
made up.
Yeah, and he made up a lot of stuff.
Yeah,
I love the guy, but he made up a lot of shit.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff like even if you get it directly from the wrestler, you have to know that it's kind of a little bit of a bullshit story. So
especially old school, because they were taught.
Because I get that, because one of the things I do when there's somebody I'm gonna write a bio or an obit, I check if there's interviews. Mm-hmm. And some guys, if Nero Casas is somebody I write about, odds are he's going to be about as honest as possible about his career. He might not remember dates That's the one thing, and it's not just him. Every wrestler does not remember the dates of anything for the most part.
Yeah.
So, but if you want to know about like certain stories, like anecdotes about their career, you listen to interviews. But if they start talking about like all this weird crap about like, oh yeah, I beat so and so, or this is why I left the promotion, and they're kind of you could tell right away that it's all
and it's anywhere from enhancement talent to Hulk Hogan claiming that he was partying with John Belushi the night before
he died
too, even though he died 3 years earlier.
Yeah.
Belushi, the El Zombie Belushi.
Yeah. But it's like I don't know. I kind of like I just like going through it, and it's not. I even current wrestlers, like I like just remembering certain things about them, because it's like once you have to write a bio or something, it's something like handy to have, like,
oh hell yeah,
to know like, okay, this guy like how he got his job in AAA or CMLL, or his spot, not necessarily his job, but like or how he got booked in some promotion. That's something that most people don't know, or like their childhood in the business.
Yeah,
like how they got to wrestling, how they became fans. I think that's what's like, even when I interview guys, like I usually like to know like what they grew up watching, or stuff like that.
Oh, I love that's half what I like about it, is hearing what their fascination was, what got them into the biz, and which guys stumbled onto the biz and which seeked it out.
So have you been watching like certain AAA shows, like matches?
Not a one.
Yeah.
And
they make it easier for you to watch the matches too now. Like their YouTube channel, it's so much easier to watch.
Really?
Well,
oh, cool.
You should be the one checking. I don't have to check it out. I just watch it live.
I do kick myself because
I have a Twitch account. It comes with my Amazon Prime membership. I get a free Twitch account, and I pick AAA every month, unless I forget.
Okay, maybe I'll have to look into that, because I have an Amazon Prime account. Yeah. So I should kick myself because
they're way better than CMLL right now.
Yeah, well, is Hijo del Vikingo with them?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Well, no, but
I can't believe.
But no, he's no.
This is a wrestling insider and expert.
No, the reason I'm asking is because I know he's making a lot of appearances here in the States.
He hasn't made any appearances in the States.
I thought he had.
Hijo del Vikingo? No, he doesn't have his visa yet.
Oh, okay. I thought he did one recently.
No.
Oh, okay.
Kurt is not even.
I'm a victim.
Kurt has not even seen Hijo del Vikingo.
I'm a victim of sobriety. Yeah.
No, he's probably going to be making an appearance this year. I think he's probably going to start this year.
Okay, but no, I kicked myself because he's there. There's
Laredo Kid, Taurus, Lucha Brothers.
There's some really. There's
Aramis. You even watched Aramis yet?
Oh, I have seen Aramis.
Yes, he's awesome.
I've seen him.
Ares is good. The women, Lady Maravilla is really good. She teams up with Villano Tercero Jr., who's the good Villano Tercero Jr. You didn't watch Big Mommy versus Lady Maravilla?
No, I did not.
God, dude, you gotta watch that.
You know I don't.
That's a hair match.
Now, I have to watch it because I gotta get over my anger at the...
I don't get why you can't watch AAA when AAA's way... Like even, I understand, certain time periods where you can't watch it,
but I'm still angry over the 2015 pay-per-view.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
But, Big Mommy, Lady Maravilla was a really good hair match. And then it has a really good finish at the end. Have you even watched The Big Strippers?
You know I haven't.
Oh my God! How did you know watch the Big Strippers? Strippers, Big Chico Che, Big Mike, and Big Obed. Bunch of fat guys.
In fact, the only AAA I have.
They're not even AAA. They're IWRG. That really? Shows you how little you've been watching.
Yeah, I haven't followed it. I'll be the first to.
How dare you?
No, the only.
You haven't watched Big Strippers. Our friendship is over.
Oh dear! Oh my God! Okay, which one of us is Cornette and which is Meltzer?
Obviously, sure. You would be Cornette because you haven't watched Mr. Iguana. I think you probably like Mr. Iguana.
Just the name alone, I like him already.
I like his work. Mm-hmm. I'm just not a comedy guy. Like that, the level of comedy he does, it's a little too much for me. Says the guy who's telling you to watch The Big Strippers. Honestly, what it is...
No, I'll be the first to admit, I am totally out of touch with what's going on in AAA, IWRG. The only thing I know anything about is CMLL. That's the only wrestling I watch, period, these days.
It's, to me, when it comes to comedy, I can watch... I'll be amused by it, but if if I watch it like for third, fourth, fifth time, it's dead for me. You know what I mean? Like it's like it's run its course.
You know what? One of the things that when I think back to things like Titanes and El Ring and all that stuff, there's a lot of comedy workers now. One, Orange Cassidy, who would have been a great fit for old school Titanes.
Mr. Iguana would have fit there.
Yeah, and I think one of the reasons you could watch them week after week was those matches were just like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
You can do comedy for 5 minutes and keep it fresh. But if you're going to have matches that go 15 minutes, you got to do a little more than just the comedy.
You know what helps, like with Mr. Iguana, at least in AAA, is that if he's in a trios match, you obviously know he's not going to be in the match the entire time, so it's not. Mm-hmm. So I think that's one of the advantages. And I don't he's good though. I do think he's good. He's got talent. It's like the lizard. It's hard for me. Like he carries a lizard plush doll.
This is the perfect.
And he throws it up, which is he uses it. And then Parca Negra came out, or actually I think it was Parquita Negra that came out with a little this ugly looking monster that he carries to the ring. Also.
I love it.
Yeah, so it's like...
oh my god, you're giving me reasons to watch... oh my god.
Yeah.
Okay, I have to get over my anger.
Yeah, but
that was the worst pay-per-view I ever saw.
On AAA, their YouTube channel, if they have Big Mommy versus Lady Maravilla, watch that match. It's good. And then watch the post-match angle afterwards. That whole feud was really good.
Okay, cool, cool.
I would say if you pick the two best feuds from 2019, it's the Microman Chamuel feud. Mm-hmm. And that was probably the best in CMLL, just because... there was some continuity to it, and it kind of like, at least they were building it up to something. But the best feud overall in Mexico was probably Big Mommy versus Lady Maravilla, the way it was booked.
Oh, whoa. Well, we all know how it is when I promise I'll watch something, so I'm not going to promise.
Did you watch the Kenny Omega matches in AAA?
Yes, I did.
Both of them? Phoenix and Dragon Lee?
And I loved them.
Yeah. They were good.
Yeah, they were very good.
I think that's the thing. Like, I don't get how anybody, like... I think unless you don't like the style of wrestling, I could understand that.
Yeah, but that... wow.
but that would explain it. Like, if you don't like the style of wrestling, okay, then you don't like high flying or high impact type of wrestling. Maybe you just like, slow plodding wrestling, which there might be some people like...
I was going to say, where's their slow plodding
WWF? WWE?
Now, I haven't watched any WWE in eons, but but from what people say, it sounds like, while they might not dig... like the overall product, that there's some amazing workers.
Because there's a lot of fans who don't like the and we've even said there's a lot of matches where there's like multiple count pinfalls.
Yes,
that I think that kind of gets over the top sometimes.
Yeah. Or
like the Canadian destroyers being done like nonstop. That kind of gets a little carried away.
True.
So,
I can understand that.
But it's like, I don't know how you cannot like those matches. Like,
and to say they're not good workers. Yeah. There's one thing to say it's not my cup of tea, but to say he's not a good worker is just ludicrous.
Did you watch that match that he and I can't remember who he teamed up with. Where they wrestled the Young Bucks. Remember? Oh, with Kota Ibushi. Him and Kota Ibushi versus the Young Bucks. I think it was here in Long Beach, wasn't it?
No, I didn't see that.
And it went really long. Mm-hmm. And I think the only thing I did, it was really good too. The only thing is like I think it just kept going on and on. And they were trying to like build the story of like they didn't want to like end like totally like just beat each other down, like because they were like a faction or together. I don't know. I thought that was still a good match.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's things. One thing, I don't like matches that go long, but
who's the one wrestler?
I'm not gonna have a fit.
Who's the one wrestler you totally will not watch right now? Is there anybody you will?
Diamante Azul.
And you still watched him.
I watch him because I have to.
Yes. Because he's in that trios match and you're like, well.
Yeah. And all the other 5 wrestlers I have no problem with.
Well, no, wasn't Gilbert in that match too? So it was 2 that you had.
No, that was in the previous one with the Chavez brothers.
Oh, okay. Well, you like the Chavez brothers?
I love the Chavez brothers. And if anybody told me that I would like Angel de Oro.
I know, really, yeah.
Man, losing his mask was the best thing that could have ever happened to that guy. And then... team up with his brother, man. That feels old school.
And then they get booed a lot too because they're the pretty boys.
I was gonna say they got a lot of heel heat. They should just turn them. I mean, it'd be great heels.
I made I think it was like I don't know if it was can't remember if I said it in a podcast, but I had said they should just turn them into the Ingobernables and just keep the name, like bring back the Ingobernables.
That's actually a good idea.
Yeah, like.
I like that
idea.
What
are they gonna? What's Rush gonna do? Sue them?
Well, the first thing I thought of when I was watching last Friday night show. Every time they sold to the crowd and got booed, they reminded me of when Rush was a Technico.
Yeah. And he was getting remember he would smile at them
that was brilliant.
Roosh is finally getting his, like, at least his groove back as far as being an asshole, but it's helping that he's with LA Park. You've heard the new Ingobernables in AAA?
No, I haven't.
It's Roosh, Bestia del Ring, of course, and LA Park.
Wow.
And LA Park is awesome as he's
And Bestial to Ring would be bearable with Rush
with those
and
two.
LA Park.
And he's still awful.
Yeah.
They wrestled a match where it was them three versus the Lucha Brothers and I think the Psycho Clown. And you remember Phoenix when he was in CMLL? He always ended up getting Bestia del Ring.
Yes.
Well, it happened in AAA also. So he does a tope.
He says, "I'm cursed.
Yeah.
I'm cursed."
He does a tope to the outside, and what does Bestia del Ring do? Moves to the side. So, but it was a good match.
It's a lot different than how Ric Flair used to take his backdrops on his side.
Yeah.
It doesn't work the same for Bestia del Ring.
Yeah,
It
so
doesn't
it's
have
like-
the same effect.
Yeah, because he's not really protecting Phoenix. He's just pretty much like, let me just move. Let me protect myself. I don't want to get hurt. But I mean, the best part was they do an interview with LA Park and with all three of them, and Conan shows up also because Conan is also part of the faction now.
Oh wow!
Apparently, these guys get thrown in there. So then, LA Park is talking about how him and Roosh are a faction and everything, and then he looks at Bestia del Ring and is like, "You're with us too." like he just doesn't care about it. Like, yeah, you're with us too. What the hell? Yeah, but
Oh wow!
there's a lot going on, and like it started to pick up. There was about 4 or 5 weeks where there was nothing going on in Lucha, and now there's
something to talk about.
Something
again.
to talk about. Well, not much though, but
Yeah. Well, that's the nice thing about having taken such a long break that I have is when I watch it now, it's like,
it's something new for you, fresh.
yeah, it's kind of fresh again. You know,
You don't have you're not the podcaster that's jaded like the rest of us.
I'm just kind of fun doing it.
Yeah.
I'd get jaded probably if I watched every single thing, but and I think we brought this up on past episodes. Is when we grew up watching wrestling meant you watch it once or twice a week.
Yeah.
You don't watch every single thing that's been taped. You're gonna get jaded after a while. Your expectations are gonna be probably too high at times.
See, to me, like if you're doing a podcast and if you're not getting paid doing it, and you're still doing that, watching every show, you're insane.
Insane, totally,
Yeah.
totally.
If you're getting paid,
Yeah.
and
Unless you're maybe independently wealthy and just
and then you just really love
Yeah.
wrestling and you have to watch it all the time.
Yeah.
But if you're getting paid and you have to watch like WWE, AEW, and NWA Power or whatever, like let's say you have to watch 4 of the promotions. I feel bad for you because I mean,
I agree.
You're getting a lot of
agree.
stuff. Like I don't feel bad for you because you're making money, but it's like you could probably figure out a way to like. I would probably like be like, can I just watch CMLL? That's it. Or AAA. Can I just watch AAA?
Well, it's like I say, CMLL has always been my favorite promotion, even during their bad times, and sometimes I just sit there saying, why do they do what they do? But, I still dig it.
Because look, at AAA, you just have to watch it once a month. like, or twice a month. Worst case scenario, maybe 3 times a month. That's not bad. CML, yes, it's every week. But, I mean, honestly, you don't have to watch the Monday or Tuesday shows. You could just watch specific matches off of that, and then you watch the Friday show.
Right.
So.
Yeah, before I forget, remember how I was talking about how when I started, hanging around some of the veterans in, the early 80s who complained about the business being killed and stuff like that. One of the ones, and he was a nice guy, a really neat guy, was John Tolis. And I think most people know that in 1971, Tolis had the highlight of his career when he had the feud with Freddie Blassie when they drew 26,000 people to the Coliseum. Now, this was Blassie's high point, too. The ironic thing was Blassie was way past his prime. He had a number of health problems, and yet he was still huge as ever as far as drawing fans and just being an icon here in LA. And poor John Tolis was riding home one night with the Doc, Terry Graham, and I guess, and a lot of people said this too, Tolis would just bemoan the state of the business today and how You know,
When was like an 80, 81?
this was like 81, 82.
Think about that, and we still didn't get to the muscle era. Like that was barely the beginning of the muscle era.
Exactly.
I mean-
Yes,
I
very
mean,
good point.
Like maybe like a year later was like all the Road
Yes.
Warriors, all those guys started popping up.
Yeah, the number of steroided guys who would come
Yeah.
around were 1 in a million.
Yeah.
A lot of time they wouldn't even get pushed.
Because I think from like 83 to 87 it was fucking insane. Like
It's-
everybody's like, they were
that's
like,
when they started putting stuff in the candy jars.
yeah, it's like
everywhere.
holy crap, Ultimate War, Dingo Warrior, Ultimate
Everywhere.
Warrior.
So Tolis is bemoaning the business end. Doc, I guess, finally, and apparently Doc wasn't even drinking, but apparently he had had enough and says, "Oh, for crying out loud, you put over a guy with bad eyes, 1 kidney, and no knees, and you're bemoaning the state of the business today?" And to Tolis' credit, he was still nice to the Doc after that.
Yeah. Oh, jeez. So, Kurt, I guess we should end the show, but will you watch Big Mommy versus Lady Maravilla's hair match?
I plead the fifth.
You should
Not
watch
plead
it.
the fifth, but
You should watch it.
I'm not going to promise, but I'm going to try. Next time we do a podcast together, we'll see if
In
I have watched
August 2020.
21.
2021, yes. August 2020.
One thing, if you don't mind, before we go, I would like to say my father, Robert James Sidford Brown, passed away this past November. 95 years old. That cat had an amazing life, and I already knew that, but as I'm going through all his old papers and photos, he kept stuff. I mean, he held on to stuff. A bit of a rat packer.
He still had a lot of his stuff in storage?
Not even storage, at his house.
At his house.
All
Oh, he
at
still had his house.
Not his house. He was in a retirement home.
Yeah.
but
Oh, at the retirement home.
Oh, he kept everything he could still hold on to.
Wow.
I'm finding old patents of him that I didn't know he had. He's a nuclear physicist,
Yeah.
so he had patents. I came across...
Anything of value that you could actually put out there? Patents.
Not money. Well, yeah, I don't think so. I don't
He didn't invent like the internet back in 1960 or whatever.
Actually, I'd love to know what these patents were because he
Yeah.
had a lot of them.
Yeah.
I knew he had a few. I didn't know he had as many as he had.
You could sue someone if you have the patent. It
Yeah,
could be.
it's true,
It
it's
could actually
true.
match something, and you could show, hey, you have the patent, and you could sue him. And
This
then
is true.
That's how you could invest in your wrestling promotion. That's how you start.
Whole Street Wrestling,
Street
here
Wrestling,
we come,
yeah.
baby! He's one of the last surviving people who was on the Manhattan Project when he was a college student during World War II.
Wow.
He was, he wasn't drafted. He signed up, but they sent him to Los Alamos. One of the most impressive things about him was he was a foreign language nut, and while I think the only language he spoke near fluently was Italian, he was just a language nut. He loved studying different languages. He studied languages, everything from Dutch, German, Russian. He knew some Spanish. He could do a simple conversation in Spanish. He wasn't a huge wrestling fan, but he loved watching Wednesday night wrestling from the Olympic because he was a Miguel Alonso fan, the commentator. He loved listening to Miguel Alonso. And he also took me to my very first wrestling match at the Olympic Auditorium, May 4th, 1973.
His last wrestling show.
No, he took me to several.
Okay.
Not frequently.
I thought he went to his first and last show.
No, his favorite part of that show was an elderly Mexican lady screaming in Spanish, "Break his fucking leg." That was his favorite part. I mean, he enjoyed the whole thing.
Yeah.
You know, and,
For him to continue to go, he must have enjoyed
oh,
it.
yeah.
So.
Well, and he looked like a scientist too, very thin, bald head with a beard and spectacles. When we were in Mexico City, he didn't want me to think every place was the Marriott Hotel where we were staying, where he's on a business meeting.
Yeah.
So he took me some back alley carnival out in the middle of nowhere, which shows he had balls because he wasn't a tough guy.
And that's where you were kidnapped. No.
And that was the fun part of the story.
Yes, that's where the adventure began.
The kidnapper's name was Lorena. She was tall, buxom. She slapped me all over
This
the
was something
place.
you could do back in the day. Now in Mexico, you probably wouldn't do that.
No, you couldn't. No. That wouldn't fly. That wouldn't fly. No, but he took me to the carnival where he won me the Blue Demon statue at the
Oh, cool.
statue, which I still have to this day.
Yeah.
Worth a nickel to everybody else. Worth.
Is it that? It's that one that's like that, right? Like it's, or is it different?
It's
just
about,
the bust.
No, it's the whole body.
Oh, okay.
The choice was El Santo and Blue Demon, but since I went to school with kids who were straight from Mexico, they always drove into me that Ray Mendoza and Blue Demon was where it's at.
Yeah, because it was there. I think Blue Demon came in a little later than Santo, didn't he?
He did. But like kids straight from Mexico.
Yeah.
Learn from their parents.
Because Blue Demon
is the guy. Santo is the one most people like.
Yeah.
Blue Demon is the wrestler.
Yeah.
So I wanted that statue badly. I wanted to be cool.
Yeah.
I wasn't very cool, but I do love that statue, and I did love my papa, and just want to say what an awesome life he had, and one of the truest Renaissance men I've ever met. So until next time, ladies and gentlemen. Hope all is well.
2021. I will
see.
be back soon. Kurt will probably be back in 2021. So.
We shall see. We shall see. I do think I have to be on the next podcast just to see whether
You watched Lady Maravilla and Big Mommy?
and Big Mommy. Just the fact she's called Big Mommy makes me want to see her. I'm already excited, and I just can't hide it. I'm about to lose control, and I think I like it. So until next time, may the left hemisphere of the brain short-circuit the right hemisphere, may the right hemisphere short-circuit the left hemisphere, and bing, you're there.